Most modern frames have an integrated rear hanger. Grease the threads in the hole in the gear hanger. Introduce the fixing bolt of the rear derailleur into the hole in the hanger. The hanger has a tab on the back where the C screw rests. Check the C screw is in the right place to go past this tab without hitting it. Fully tighten the bolt to lock the derailleur to the bike. Hang the bike up or put it in a stand so the back wheel can turn. If the rear derailleur has a cable connected, select the highest gear. If the front derailleur has a cable connected, select the lowest gear. If one end of the chain has a pin sticking out, thread the other end through the system. Hang the C-hook near the end of the chain so it can't pass through the rear derailleur. Run the chain up behind the bottom jockey wheel. There may be a metal tab between the plates of the cage that holds the two jockey wheels. Make sure the chain passes this without rubbing on it. Pass the chain up around the front of the top jockey wheel. Pass the chain up around the back of the smallest cog on the back wheel. Engage the chain on the smallest cog on the back wheel and pull it through. Pass the chain through the front derailleur cage and engage it on the small cog at the front. Turn the crank gently to pull the chain round the small cog at the front. Connect the chain coming down the front of the small cog at the front to the C-hook in the other end of the chain. The chain is now ready to be connected. Run the chain around the two biggest cog wheels, the fastest at the front and the slowest at the back. Don't thread it through the derailleurs. Find the shortest length that would connect and add on 1 inch, one complete inner and outer link. This is usually the ideal length for modern derailleur systems. Thread the chain through the derailleurs and round the two smallest cog wheels, the slowest at the front and the fastest at the back. Offer up the two ends of the chain and match the link that makes the chain short enough so that the bottom run of the chain doesn't rub on the swing arm near the top jockey wheel. To reconnect the chain, thread it back onto the bike and hold it in place with a wire bent into a C shape. A dead spoke with the head cut off is ideal. Realign both ends of the chain in the slot further from the punch with the holes aligned. The rivet sticking out should be faced towards the punch. Drive the rivet back through the chain by screwing in the punch. Check how far to push by comparing the back of the link with the others. The position of the driven pin needs to match the height of the others. When the head of the rivet, viewed from the back, matches its fellows, retract the screw and remove the chain from the tool. Check the link you've just been working on. It may be stiff and unable to flex like the others. If it's stiff, it needs to be spread. The limit screws restrict the movement of the derailleur so it can't move the chain into a position where there is no cog. They are usually labelled with a tiny letter H and a tiny letter L for high and low. Some people prefer to set the limit screws before the cable is connected, or with the cable dismounted so it can't pull. This means even if the cable breaks in use, there is no risk of the chain shifting off the cogs, although this is an optional step. With the back wheel off the ground, stand behind the bike with your head on the centre line. Turn the H screw until the top jockey wheel sits directly under the smallest cog. Clockwise pushes the derailleur left, anti-clockwise allows the spring to push the derailleur right. Pedal the bike gently, push against the rear derailleur to shift into a lower gear. When you release the derailleur, the chain should drop back promptly onto the highest gear. Turn the pedals faster and let the chain drop suddenly to be certain it won't move too far right and jump over the smallest cog and fall off. Turn the pedals backwards and the chain should run smoothly through the derailleur when the derailleur is in its default highest gear position. If you need to make further adjustments, move the screw a quarter turn at a time and check again after each adjustment. That way, if you go too far, you know how much to go back. Pedal the bike gently and push the derailleur towards the lowest gear position. If the chain won't go into first gear, the biggest cog, you need to turn the L screw anti-clockwise to allow it to move further. If the arm of the derailleur starts to rattle on the spokes, or the chain goes over the biggest cog and falls off, you need to turn the L screw clockwise to limit the derailleur's range of movement. As you get closer to the target, make small, defined adjustments. So if you go too far, you know how much to go back. Once you have the right position for the L screw, double check by pushing the derailleur hard as you pedal to try and get the chain to fall off behind the first gear cog or the derailleur arm to hit the spokes. Some bikes are equipped with a plastic disc between the first gear cog and the spokes. This is a spoke protector, sometimes called a dustbin lid or pie plate. If the L screw is kept in the right place, you don't need it. It can be removed by taking off the cassette or freewheel and unclipping it from the spokes. Select the position that pulls the least cable, usually the highest gear at the rear and the lowest gear at the front. Thread the cable into the shifter. This is easiest if you take careful note of the path of the old cable before removing it. If the shifter is mounted on the handlebars, you need the first run of cable to be long enough to allow the handlebars to turn fully without pulling on the cable. Cut the outer cable carefully, use a spike to reopen the plastic liner and fit ferrules at each end. Thread the inner cable into the outer. Continue down the cable run, setting up any other section of outer cable. On some bikes, the cables run under the bottom bracket shell before they reach the derailleur. The last run into a rear derailleur needs to be long enough for the derailleur to move. Screw down any barrel adjusters on the cable run. They may be at the exit of the shifter, at a stop on the down tube, or on the entry to the rear derailleur. Some systems have an inline barrel adjuster that just sits in the cable. The inner cable must be clamped in exactly the right position. There is usually a groove under the plate on the clamp bolt that shows where the cable must lie. Clamp the inner wire in place. Pull on any exposed section of cable to fully seat all the ferrules and settle the outer cable into the stops. Make sure the shifters are fully released, usually by selecting the highest gear at the back and the lowest gear at the front. Then loosen the clamp bolt, pull any slack through, reclamp the cable. Select the highest gear with the shifter and connect the cable. If the cable is already connected, screw down all the barrel adjusters. If this leaves the cable very slack, unlock the cable and pull the slack through. With the rear wheel off the ground, pedal gently forwards and backwards and make sure the cable is passive and the derailleur is defaulting against the H screw. If it's not in the right position, adjust the H screw. Click the shifter one gear down as you pedal gently forwards. The shifter is now registering X-1, where X is the number of sprockets on the rear hub. This will leave you on the second highest gear. If the gear didn't shift in response to the first click, screw the barrel adjuster on the rear derailleur anti-clockwise to tighten the cable until the derailleur shifts into the second highest gear, X-1. Check the top jockey wheel is sitting directly under the second smallest cog. Make fine adjustments, screwing the barrel adjuster anti-clockwise to move the chain left, clockwise to move the chain right. Turn the pedals backwards to check the chain is running smoothly on the cog for the second highest gear. Click the shifter one step at a time, going down through the gears onto bigger cogs. If the chain is reluctant to shift onto a bigger cog, tighten the cable by screwing the barrel adjuster anti-clockwise. Click the shifter one step at a time, going up through the gears onto smaller cogs. If the chain is reluctant to shift onto a smaller cog, loosen the cable by screwing the barrel adjuster clockwise. Run through the gears. The top jockey wheel should stay close to the cogs, but not interfere with them. If the top jockey wheel is too close to any sprocket, turn the C screw clockwise to move it further away. If your shifting isn't slick and the top jockey wheel is far from the sprockets, you may be able to get it closer by turning the C screw anti-clockwise.